Muhammad Munir, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. He doesn't need much of an introduction. MashaAllah, he's known by many of us, especially those of us who love him dearly. I guess to introduce the topic, which is the importance of the family that we'll be talking about, I'll approach it from two angles that he likes a lot, history and hadith. From the history aspect, the idea of the importance of family in the life of a Muslim, and the idea that it's not oftentimes those big things that we think we have to do in order to influence our family, but just sometimes that good relationship, and how sometimes as parents we might undermine that relationship when we don't practice Islamic character in the home. From a historical aspect, the personality of Hannibal is an interesting one, because what's reported about his life is that his father, before he died, told him to not rest until he conquered Rome. And from his accomplishments was taking an army of elephants. Many of them died on the way, but leading an army of elephants over the Alps and conquering Rome in the second of the Punic Wars. From a hadith perspective, some of the family members of the people of hadith, you have Israel, who is the grandson of Abu Ishaq al-Sabi'i, who, even though himself may not have been as prominent in terms of hadith as his grandfather, because of the relationship he had with his grandfather, he preserved his hadith and was a decisive figure as it relates to when people differed in terms of his grandfather's hadith. Even as a stepson, Muhammad ibn Ja'far, Gundar, was the same type of personality. He grew up under Shu'bah, who was his stepfather. And again, he memorized his hadith to an extent that, again, when people differed about the hadith of Shu'bah, then Muhammad ibn Ja'far Gundar was a hakam bainahum. He was the one who could tell them what was right and what was incorrect about his hadith. The idea is that the way they carried themselves, we can assume in their households, had an influence on their children carrying on that legacy after them. And again, it may not have been at the same level, but there was still that preservation and that transmission and that honor that those family members received based upon that. And it's not customary of me to praise people in their faces, and it's not a praise, it's just what I've seen. Well, I know Zakir Allahi Ahadan, but our brother, as he talks to you, is someone who himself takes care of, has given great importance to his own family, to his daughters, Ramla, Josiah, to his son Mas'ud, and even his Raba'i, that, he gave great importance to making sure that they were okay and making sure that they learned and that their studies were looked after. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless his family, to continue the hadith legacy and to carry on the torch of Islam even after him. But the idea is that we begin to show more importance to our family, and they don't have to be replicas of us, but in just keeping those good relationships, perhaps that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless them to carry on what Allah blesses us to do while we're here. And without further ado, our beloved brother, Mufti Muhammad Munir.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، قال الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى في كتاب الأدب: باب أحب الأسماء إلى الله عز وجل. حدثنا صدقة بن الفضل قال أخبرنا ابن عيينة قال حدثنا ابن المنكدر عن جابر رضي الله عنه قال: ولد لرجل منا غلام فسماه القاسم، فقلنا لا نكنيك أو لا نكنيك أبا القاسم ولا كرامة، فأخبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأخبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال سم ابنك عبد الرحمن، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, you are very fortunate and very blessed, walillahi alhamd, to have an imam, to have a resident scholar, to have two brothers whom we feel and we know are overqualified for the position. Walillahi alhamd. And there are many masjids that you can go to, and I myself have witnessed it and been to many of them in and outside of the United States, in which they would literally kill for one imam. They would literally kill for one resident scholar, for one person who studied overseas, for one person who graduated, for one person who speaks the Arabic language, someone who's friendly, good character, very good public speakers, humble, low to the ground people. They would kill for these things. So to have two of them in one location is either one of two things. It's either a great blessing of Allah upon you, or it's a great test of Allah, a great fitna that He has placed in your path, and perhaps will be a means of it being an argument against you on the day of judgment. And this is no exaggeration, and this is not trying to butter anybody up or kiss up, or we're just speaking the truth. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ, he informed us as in the authentic narration, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ الْمَدَّاحِينَ فَاجْثُوا فِي وُجُوهِهِمُ التُّرَابَ. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Whenever you see people who are immoderate in their praise, people who flatter, people who go extreme in praising and lauding people, then throw dirt or throw gravel in their faces, meaning stop them, shun them. Don't go overboard in praising people. Don't go overboard in saying good things about people, even if a person deserves those things. But just be moderate and be balanced. But the Prophet ﷺ is also the same one who praised people in their faces. And he spoke good of many men and women in their presence and behind their backs. When Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu was with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, لَقَدْ ظَنَنْتُ يَا أَبَا هُرَيْرَةَ أَنْ لَا يَسْأَلَنِي أَوْ أَنْ لَا يَسْأَلُنِي أَحْدٌ أَوَّلَ مِنْكَ لِمَا رَأَيْتُ مِنْ حِرْصِكَ عَلَى الْحَدِيثِ. The Prophet ﷺ was asked, مَنْ أَسْعَدُ النَّاسِ بِشَفَاعَتِكَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Who will be the luckiest, the most blessed, the most fortunate person when it comes to your intercession on that day, in which people need the intercession? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, indeed, I knew you would be the first person to ask me this question. It wouldn't be Abu Bakr, it wouldn't be Umar, it wouldn't be Anas, it will be you, because I see that you're a diligent student of my hadith. So the Prophet, he praised Abu Hurairah to his face. He told him, and he gave him praise. So it's permissible to praise someone in their face or behind their back, as long as it's done, first and foremost, it has to be true. You cannot lie. And secondly, it has to be done in moderation. And oftentimes, praising someone is a means of encouragement, a means of tathbeet, bolstering them. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm not trying to break your neck, but I want you to stay on the path. So to have a masjid in which you have two brothers, and I'm sure there are other brothers who come and speak, and sisters who do classes, but I'm just talking about those two whom I know personally, to have both of them in one masjid, offering classes, doing lectures, talking, that's a tremendous blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is no exaggeration. It's times we go to masjids and they try to lock us down. You can't leave our masjid. We need you to stay. We need you to come. And that's just one, let alone two. So it's either a blessing of Allah upon you, or it's something that you're going to have to ask Allah about on the day of judgment. Because everyone doesn't have that option of having people to teach them. And people that are humble, people that are available. There's some people who get a little bit of knowledge and they puff themselves up. They become very high off the ground. Don't ask me any questions. I can't come over your house. I'm sorry, this is my work, this is my contract, I'll go home, khalas, that's it. But to have the ability to walk up to someone, to shake their hands, to be friendly with them, to socialize with them, it's a tremendous blessing of Allah upon all of you. So with that being said, we don't need any further introductions. I appreciate all of the support of the brothers and the sisters, especially in the inclement weather. And when we talk about the family in Islam, of course, that's a mega topic. It's a mega topic. And there isn't enough time to truly envelop the whole entire topic. The family in Islam, its importance, its virtue, its excellence, how to establish a family, how to maintain a family, some of the challenges that you will face trying to raise a family, marriage, divorce, college, problems with your children, stepchildren, stepdaughters, stepmothers, stepfathers, the relationship that's sour between the son and the father. I love my mom, but I really don't like dad too much, or vice versa. These are all a part of this topic of the family in Islam. So what I want to focus on tonight, and what I want to shed light on tonight, bi'idhnillah, is only one aspect from that spectrum, and that is something which is extremely symbolic and extremely important. When we talk about history, that's another mega topic and another broad term. History encompasses all types of things. And from the most important aspects of history in our modern age is the media. Movies, games, videos, shows. These things play a tremendous role in how we look at life and how we understand life. The power of the cinema, the power of the film. A movie, a film, a documentary can make you like something or dislike something. Can make you have a stance and a position towards something just through what the director and the producer shows you and presents to you. And it lies no doubt one of the most powerful films or one of the most powerful series of the 20th century in a city like here, Philadelphia, and any city around the world, in the United States, was that none other than Roots. Roots. Obviously based off of the novel of Alex Haley. And that's a very long story. Did Alex Haley actually write the book? Did he steal the book? Was he a plagiarist, etc.? I don't know him. His name is on the book. So the novel was turned into a series. And anyone who was alive when that series came out in the 70s, he or she knows, and to this day you can read about it, it was the most popular, groundbreaking series in history on the television. It shocked America and it rocked America. And there were other sagas before Roots that were similar to Roots that did the same as well, such as Uncle Tom's Cabin. Uncle Tom's Cabin, if you read your history, all right? And there are many books and motion pictures that came before and after that were groundbreaking and of tremendous impact for everyone in the United States. Those who were slaves or ex-slaves and those who were masters or ex-masters, the white, the black, the yellow, and the brown. And when Roots came out, there lies no doubt nothing was ever the same afterwards. And there were many of the realities of Southern slavery, some of the horrors and atrocities that were unknown to many people, let alone the struggle of emancipation. Because many people, they think that as soon as the slaves were free, everything was peachy. That's not true. There were many people who were still practically slaves after the proclamation was made. Let alone the struggles of prejudice, of discrimination, of Jim Crow laws, and the list goes on. And that's all a part of Roots as well. Even though the later saga wasn't as popular, didn't share the same quality as the early saga. But everybody knows Kunta Kinte. Everybody knows that. Black, white, yellow, and red, and living in the United States. Everyone knows Kunta Kinte. And you know the plight of Kunta Kinte and the story of Kunta Kinte, so on and so forth. In my humble opinion, and we can get into the modern version of Roots. We're talking about the old one, huh? Okay, in my humble opinion, one of the greatest things, and one of the things that stands out the most in the early saga of Kunta Kinte was his upbringing, his background. And everything that was done to him and with him in West Africa played a role on him in the South and his children and his offspring. And we know from the early lessons, one of the things that a great deal of importance was placed upon was his name. His name. His name and what it meant, and his father and how his father named him. And when he had his daughter, Kizzy, and what he named her, and the importance and the symbolicism of the name, to stay put. Don't go nowhere. Don't leave. All right? So when we talk about names are critical and they are pivotal in life, especially in a family system, especially in the system of Al-Islam, is the name. Naming the child. Upholding the name of the child. Picking and selecting a name. So we have the concept of raising a family. We have the concept of getting married. We have the concept of the supplication that a person makes before he has intercourse with his wife, and so on and so forth. And from these very important concepts of the family life in Islam is the name that you select and what you teach your child regarding their name. The average person today, and Allah knows best, who isn't a Muslim, and Allahu Alam, I would say 8 out of 10 people, you sit them down, you ask them what their names mean. I don't think 8 out of 10 people could give you an accurate answer. They will say, I don't know. I have no idea what my name is. This is what my name is. Oftentimes there are many names that don't have a meaning. Let alone my character, my behavior, my goals and dreams in life are based off of what my parents named me. And alhamdulillah, the Muslims are not like this. Most Muslims. Some Muslims have names which they don't know. Some names have no basic meaning or symbolicism. But many names in Islam have a strong and powerful meaning. And they symbolize many things. Manifesting the fact that you are a slave and a servant of Allah. what your character is supposed to be like and what it isn't supposed to be like. What you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. Also, the sheer excitement of having a child to name them. And the mother and the father, they differ, they fight who's going to name the baby. I'm going to name the baby. No, you're going to name the baby. It makes people happy just thinking about a name. Deciding on a name, picking a name. It is one of the most popular Google searches. If you type in Arabic, Asma al-Dhukur, Asma al-Awlad, letters that start with a T, letters that start with a Ta, letters that start with a Fa. One of the most popular Google searches are names that people are selecting. So why is the name so important in Al-Islam? And why did I bring up roots? Because that was the foundation of Kunta Kinte's life and his legacy. And one of the most important lessons that he had to go through on that plantation was to change his name. And obviously, the punishment that he went through was much more than just physical punishment. Who cares whether your name is Kunta Kinte or Toby? What difference does that make? Call me whatever you want to call me. But it was symbolic. And the kuffar, the non-Muslims who are oppressive and wrong, and how they treated those slaves, they themselves knew the paramount importance of the name. And that is why it was much more than just beating his back, but it was breaking his spirit and cutting him off of anything of nobility and honor of the past. Your name is Toby. Your name, your character, your identity, everything is what we tell you when we say to you. And we go on and on and on. We talk about the street life. You enter a gang. You are rolling with somebody. You have a name. You pick a name. No one wants to be called by their proper English name. We have a name, a nickname. This is my street name. My tattoo. Southwest or North Philly or down here, this is what they know me by. The name is extremely important, all right? Extremely important. All right, we talk about the media as well, singers and rappers. How many people know the first name of their favorite rapper? How many people know them by their first names? They know them by their nicknames. They know them by their rap names. And those rap names, 9 out of 10 times, come from other symbolic meanings. Famous gangsters, famous kingpins, famous thinkers, famous people. So these people, we talk about non-Muslims, they understand the importance of the name and how symbolic the name is and how it is a paramount or a pivotal point in establishing identity for your child. And the child and his identity or her identity is a major piece of the puzzle of the family in Al-Islam, in the family of Al-Islam. So with that being said, not to go on further with this, Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he has a section in Kitab al-Adab, and as they say, FYI, as a fa'idah, there are many people, they read al-Adab al-Mufrad, and alhamdulillah, that's a good thing. They said Bukhari's book on manners, but do not read that book and study that book at the expense of taking away from the original book. Sahih al-Bukhari has a chapter on manners, and there are many hadiths in Adab al-Mufrad are inside Bukhari. So if you ask the person, have you read Kitab al-Adab inside Bukhari? Many of them will say no. I have to do a khutbah or a class or a summer camp or an etiquette, so let me bring out Adab al-Mufrad with the Sahih version. There's no need for that, because right inside Bukhari there is Kitab al-Adab, the book of etiquette, the book of manners. In this chapter, here's a subchapter that says, Babu ahabul asma'i ilallahi azza wa jal, the most beloved names to Allah, the mighty and the sublime. Not good names, permissible names, but the names that Allah loves, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the most. So the chapter heading, and we know Fiqh al-Bukhari fi tarajumihi, the true understanding and the secrets are found in the subchapters. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, not only does He love, but He loves certain things more than others. And Allah the Mighty and the Most High loves names. And not like we say, a name isn't important. It doesn't matter what your name is. Names aren't everything. We're not Arabs. I'm not an Arab. I don't have to have this type of name. I don't need to have that type of name. That's not what Imam al-Bukhari said. That Allah Azza wa Jalla has a love, and there are levels of that love, and certain names are fonder to Him than other names. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he reports from his teacher Sadaqat ibn al-Fadl, who narrated from Ibn Uyayna, obviously being Sufyan, who narrated from Muhammad ibn al-Munkadir, the disciple of Jabir. Allah be pleased with him and his father. He says, وَلِدَ لِرَجُلٍ مِنَّا غُلَامٌ. One day there was an Ansari man who had a child. He had a son. A son was born. فَسَمَّاهُ الْقَاسِمِ. And he gave his son a good name, and a symbolic name, and a beautiful name, and that name was Qasim. A name that has a good meaning, that has symbolicism, and it's a smooth name, Qasim. No one can mispronounce that name unless they want to mispronounce it, like many non-Muslims do. You find them pronouncing German words or German names properly, French names properly, Spanish names properly. When it comes to the Muslim name or a name of Arabic origin or West African origin, you'll find them making no effort to properly pronounce it. No effort whatsoever. All right? And that's not an accident. That's not an accident. If they wanted to, they could properly pronounce it. All right? So with that being said, the name Qasim, it's a beautiful name in the Arabic language. And what it means, and most importantly, its attribution or its ascription to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Abu al-Qasim, the father of Al-Qasim. The Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he tells us about this name, Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din, wa innama ana qasimun, wallahu yu'ti. He says when Allah wants good for a slave, He allows the slave to be wise and learned of his religion. He gives him an understanding of what he means and wants from the servant. يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. That's the most popular version of the hadith that we always oftentimes quote. The hadith then goes on to say, وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسِمٌ. And I, myself, the Prophet of Islam, and nothing more than a qasim. And Allah is the one who actually gives. All I do is categorize, separate, split up, and hand out. But the endower is Allah, the Mighty and the Most High. So the Prophet ﷺ's kunya, his by name was Abu Qasim. And in this authentic hadith, a title or sub-name of his was Qasim as well. Literally and figuratively. He was someone who made a qasam. He's someone who split up. He's someone who gave, who handed out. What did the Prophet ﷺ hand out? We know what he handed out. And we know the importance of the Prophet ﷺ's giving. So therefore, he called his son Qasim. So therefore, فَقُلْنَا, Jabir says that we, the Ansar and other Sahabas, we said, لَا نُكَنِّكَ أَبَا الْقَاسِمِ وَلَا كَرَامَةً. He says, we don't care how important you are, or how high your status is, or how beloved you are to us. We're not calling you that. We would not give you the kunya Abu al-Qasim. We shall not give you that name, the father of al-Qasim. وَلَا كَرَامَةً. And it doesn't matter if you're angry, if you're upset, if you're happy, enthused that you just had a son and you named him Qasim, we're not going to call you that. Why did they say that? Because the Prophet ﷺ's kunya was Abu Qasim. And many of the non-Muslims, whether they were the Jews of Medina or the idolaters of Arabia, they refused to call him the Messenger of Allah. And they would give him other names and other titles. They would demote his status and say, your mother called you Muhammad, that's your name, and that's the only thing they were going to call you. And sometimes they will call out to him disrespectfully, all right, and call him Abu al-Qasim instead of saying the Messenger of Allah. So the companions knew the prohibition that a person is not allowed to have the kunya of the Prophet ﷺ during his lifetime. As far as after the Prophet ﷺ passed on to Ar-Rafiq al-A'la, it is permissible to have the name Abu al-Qasim. It is permissible to have his name during his time, but not his kunya, his by name. All right? Is it permissible to have both? That's a different story. Can someone's name be Muhammad Abu al-Qasim today? That's a different story. Al-Muhim is that the companions, they took a stance against this man because he was going to be referred to something which was unbefitting. فَأَخْبَرَ النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So the man, he complained. And he went to seek the fatwa. He went to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. They won't call me by my kunya. The Prophet ﷺ, look at the beauty of his wisdom. He says, سَمِّ بِنَكَ عَبْدُ الرَّحْمَنِ. He says, call your son Abdul Rahman. Khalas. Close the book. Are you right? Are they wrong? Are they not important? Call your son Abdul Rahman. Give your son the name Abdul Rahman. So this hadith, it teaches us many, many things. The highlighting point from the hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ would only choose the best name for this man, especially in a place in which the people are arguing and fighting. So not only do you want to make a resolution and make peace, but you want to give him something which is pleasing, because his feelings are injured right now. He just had a son, he called him Qasim, and the people are saying that we're not going to call you by the name of your son. So he says, Sammi binaka Abdul Rahman. He says, call your son Abdul Rahman. Now where in this hadith does it prove and show that this is the most beloved name to Allah? Doesn't state that here. Like in Yustambat, it is deduced from this hadith. Whereas the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that which was best, and he wouldn't mention that which was inferior, especially as I said in a time of argument and debating. Let alone the fact that there are other hadiths that speak about the most beloved names to Allah being Abdullah and Abdul Rahman. Moving forward from the benefits of this authentic narration is wisdom in a leader. And one of the most important characteristics of a wise leader is knowing how to deal with the people's problems. knowing how to settle the problems, the beef, how to cut the fire off. Okay? Anyone can be a leader when things are going smooth. Things are going well. Anyone can lead. Everyone can lead. Everyone can steer the ship when it's a calm sea. But the skilled sailor, the master of the yacht, is the one who can steer the ship and can maintain the ship when the seas are turbulent. That's a true sailor right there. So the Prophet ﷺ, we see in many authentic hadiths, he was a tremendous leader, and one of the manifestations of that is that he knew how to settle problems. And it's something that you need as a husband, something that you need as a wife, something that you need as an imam of a masjid, something that you need as a coach, because everything is not going to be smooth. Human beings differ and they fight. That's the nature of the human, as Allah tells us. They will always differ, except for those whom your Lord has mercy upon. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was a very, very smooth leader. And another very important aspect of leadership is not to get caught up in petty squabbles. Petty squabbles are endless. Everyone wants you to join their side, take their side. Listen to me. He's wrong, she's wrong. Listen, Sheikh, people, they'll call you, they'll come to you, and they'll literally, without any shyness, try to steal you and place you on their side without any shyness. Just like that. So if you're a leader, you have to avoid this. And you never give answers which lean to one or two groups. You give the truth in a very wise manner without offending or hurting anyone's feelings. One of the most important skills of a leader is how to say no. Not how to say yes. Everyone knows how to say yes, but how to say no. How to let someone down gracefully. Sabaqaka biha ukasha. He says, Ukasha beat you to the punch. Khalas. He never told the man you're not going to Jannah. He never told the man you're not from those people. You will be reckoned. You will. He says, Sabaqaka biha ukasha. Ukasha came first and he got it. It's done. It's over. And that's when he said in this hadith, Sammi bibnaka Abdurrahman. Call him Abdurrahman. Are they right? Are they wrong? Can you call your son Abdurrahman? So this shows us the importance of the name and the Prophet ﷺ selecting for this man this important name. And the symbolicism of the name, which we'll get to in just a brief moment. Bidnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Moving forward. The next chapter in Sahih Bukhari, it says, Babu qawla Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sammu bismi, wa la taknu bi kunyati. Qala wa anasun an Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, speaking about the importance of the family, he has a book that he wrote on children. A book that he devoted just for the rulings of children. تحفة الودود في أحكام أو بأحكام المولود. And in the 8th chapter he says في ذكر تسميته وأحكامها ووقتها وفيه 10 فصول. الفصل الأول في وقت التسمية. الفصل الثاني فيما يستحب من الأسماء وما يحرم منها وما يكره. الفصل الثالث في استحباب تغيير الاسم إلى غيره لمصلحة. الفصل الرابع في جواز تكنية المولود بأبي فلان. الفصل الخامس في أن التسمية حق للأب دون الأم. الفصل السادس في الفرق بين الاسم والكنية واللقب. الفصل السابع في حكم التسمية باسم نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم والتكني بكنيته إفرادا وجمعا وذكر الأحاديث في ذلك. الفصل الثامن في جواز التسمية بأكثر من اسم واحد. الفصل التاسع في بيان ارتباط معنى الاسم بالمسمى والمناسبة التي بينهما. الفصل العاشر في بيان أن الخلق يدعون يوم القيامة بآبائهم لا بأمهاتهم. He says with regards to naming the child, giving the child this importance, then there are 10 main topics of discussion that every father and mother should be aware of, even if you've named your children already, because you may have further children. Or maybe you may change your child's name, or you may give your child a nickname. I didn't give you the best name, but now I'm going to give you a nickname, which is symbolic, which can inspire you to be a great leader or a great politician or a great scientist or a great athlete or a great scholar of Islam. Whatever you choose to be, that's permissible. That's permissible to do. He says first and foremost is, when is the child to be named? Is the child named before the child is even born, like many people do? Or is it named after its birth? Is it named on the first day or the 7th day? Is the 7th day the 8th day or the actual 7th day after the child was brought into this world? When do you name your child? And what's the importance of picking a time to name the child? And obviously we know in that saga roots what he did with his son and when he named him and why he named him. Number 2, he says the names which are recommended. names which are recommended. You don't have to have this name, but you should have this name. And it's an excellent virtue to have this name and to give your child this name. And also names which are unlawful, names that you cannot give your child. No matter how beautiful they are, no matter how popular they are, or no matter what symbolicism lies behind those names, they're unlawful, they're off limits. And last but not least is the gray area. Names which aren't haram, but they're definitely looked down upon. They're disliked. You shouldn't name your son this. You shouldn't name your daughter this, but if you do, it's okay. He says in the third subchapter is the recommendation of changing the name for a benefit. If there's a benefit in changing the name, then you should do it. And do not be stubborn and obstinate and say, well, it's too late now. Change the name if there's a benefit in doing so. Number 4 is the permissibility of giving your child a kunya. To call a young child Abu Fulan or Fulan. And what's the symbolicism behind that? In which a girl is called the mother of such and such. Why do girls oftentimes play with doll babies? It's much more than a toy. It's much more than a toy. It is a means of training them and being responsible and being ladylike and knowing the concept of raising a child and taking care of the child. And the same applies to giving them a kunya, in which you call your daughter the mother of such and such. And she has no children and she's not married, but it's something mental. And the same applies to your son as well. Number 5 is that the right of naming the child is exclusive to the father. The right of giving the child the name is for the father and not the mother. If the father allows the mother to do so, according to Ibn Qayyim, there's nothing wrong with that. But if they fight and they argue and they can't agree, the father says, I'm sorry, I'm pulling my rank card, I'm naming the son. I'm naming the daughter. Ibn Qayyim's view is that is his haqq. That's his right, the right of the father. If he allows his wife to name the child, la bas, nothing wrong with that. If he doesn't have a name, she's more eloquent than he is, la bas. She may have more fiqh than he does. Many women have more knowledge than their husbands. There's nothing wrong with that. But if the father refuses, Ibn Qayyim says, then it is his right to name the child. Number 6, he says the difference between 3 types of names or titles. We have an ism, we have a kunya, and we have a laqab. An ism is an actual name. A kunya, one can say a by name. And a laqab is a nickname. And obviously those who study the Arabic language, this is very important. Because these 2 things sometimes have different i'rab. Have different type of i'rab. The ism, the laqab, and the kunya. They have different types of i'rab when it comes to making the i'rab of the sentence. Number 7, he says, what is the ruling on taking the name of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Can you call yourself Muhammad and name your child Muhammad? And what is the ruling on having his kunya, like we just read? Can one be called Abu al-Qasim? Can one be called Abu al-Qasim ifradan wa jam'an? Singly, individually, or together. My name is Abu al-Qasim Muhammad. Is that permissible? Or is it only permissible if my name is just Muhammad or just Abu al-Qasim? Number 8, the permissibility of having more than, he says, Jawaz al-Tasmiyah bi akthar min ismin wahid, having more than one name. Giving your son more than one name. Giving your daughter more than one name. Number 9, and this is the most important aspect of all of these technical issues, he says, is the appropriate relativity, the relation, the connection between the name and the one who's named. The name and the one who receives the name. What is the symbolicism of your name? Why did I choose to give you this name? Why did I give you this title? And there are many people, when we talk about history, there are many people who received names and nicknames when they were born because of how they were born. Because of how they were born. And those things became extremely symbolic later on in their lives, as we just heard. Last but not least, is that on the day of judgment, the people will be called by the names of their fathers and not by the names of their mothers. And that's a very long story, an issue of discussion when it comes to the modern way in which Muslims live, in which a person is not attributed to his father. And many people make mistakes regarding this, especially in the United States. A brother, he accepts Islam, he immediately changes his name. His name used to be Ronald Martin, and now his name is Habibullah Akbar, or Kareem Muhammad. It's reality. Habibullah Akbar. This is his new name. Tayyip. That was in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. And nowadays we have a new modern wave in which they say that can't be your name. Rather, your name has to be Abdurrahman ibn Ahmed James Watsford al-Amriki. That's your name. This is the reality. Abdullah ibn Ronald Martin as-Salafi. That's the name. And it says haram to change your last name. You can't change your last name. You must keep your last name. You must have your last name because the Prophet says anyone who attributes himself to other his father has made kufr. And then we have another wave and another concept of those who accept Islam, and then they say keep your name as it is. You don't need Abdurrahman or Habib or Rahman or Abu Fulan al Fulani. Just keep your name Ronald Martin as it is. And not only is it not obligatory to change your name, but you should not change your name. Keep your name as Ronald Martin. That's the only name that you should have. What's correct? And all of this different confusion. This Dawah group, this Dawah movement, this fiqh stance, this is haram, this is obligatory. What is correct? What's correct with regards to changing the name? Is Martin the name of my father? Is that my father's name? And if I call myself Habibullah Akbar, is that me attributing myself to other than my father? All right, we're not here to get into those technical issues right now. We're just trying to shed light. And it's not just an American thing. Brothers who come overseas in different countries, they have different types of names. Someone who's from the Khalij, the Gulf, his name is very different than someone who comes from Libya or Algeria. Very different naming system. You may have an odd or peculiar name. Someone who comes from Algeria, why is his name like this? And then someone who's from Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, he has a whole different type of name. What is the fiqh behind this? Or our brothers and sisters who come from Afghanistan and Bangladesh, Inayatullah, Atallah, Inayatul Rahman, Mujibur Rahman, household name for Afghani brothers. What's the rule on having names like that? All right, so the naming system can become very, very, very technical and very confusing if you don't have the basic ground principles. If you don't have the basic ground principles. Let's take a brief selection here from Ibn Qayyim in this chapter regarding the naming system. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, this is a book that everyone should read. I don't know if the book is in English or not, with regards to the rulings of the newborn child. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, فيما يستحب من الأسماء وما يكره منها. عن أبي الدرداء رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنكم تدعون يوم القيامة بأسمائكم وبأسماء آبائكم فأحسنوا أسماءكم. رواه أبو داود بإسناد حسن. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أحب أسمائكم من الله عز وجل عبد الله وعبد الرحمن. رواه مسلم في صحيحه. وعن جابر قال ولد لرجل منا غلام. الحديث. وعن أبي وهب الجشمي قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تسموا بأسماء الأنبياء وأحب الأسماء إلى الله عبد الله وعبد الرحمن وأصدقها حارث وهمام وأقربها حرب ومرة. قال أبو محمد بن حزم اتفقوا على استحباب الأسماء المضافة إلى الله كعبد الله وعبد الرحمن وما أشبه ذلك. وقد اختلف الفقهاء في أحب الأسماء إلى الله عز وجل فقال الجمهور أحبها إليه عبد الله وعبد الرحمن. وقال سعيد بن المسيب أحب الأسماء إليه أسماء الأنبياء. والحديث الصحيح يدل على أن أحب الأسماء إليه عبد الله وعبد الرحمن. فصل. وأما المكروه منها والمحرم فقال أبو محمد بن حزم اتفقوا على تحريم كل اسم معبد لغير الله كعبد العزى وعبد هبل وعبد عمرو وعبد الكعبة وما أشبه ذلك حاشا عبد المطلب. انتهى كلامه رحمه الله. فلا تحل التسمية بعبد علي ولا بعبد الحسين ولا بعبد الكعبة. وقد روى ابن أبي شيبة حديث يزيد بن المقدام بن شريح عن المقدام بن شريح أبيه عن جده عن ابن يزيد قال وفد على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قوم فسمعهم يسمون عبد الحجر فقال له ما اسمك؟ فقال عبد الحجر. فقال له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما أنت عبد الله. فإن قيل يتفقون على تحريم الاسم المعبد لغير الله وقد صح عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم قال تعس عبد الدينار وتعس عبد الدرهم تعس عبد الخميسة تعس عبد الخطيفة. وصح عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أنا النبي لا كذب أنا ابن عبد المطلب. ودخل عليه رجل وهو جالس بين أصحابه فقال أيكم من عبد المطلب فقالوا هذا وأشاروا إليه. فالجواب أما قوله تعس عبد دينار فلم يرد به الاسم وإنما أراد به الوصف والدعاء على من يعبد قلبه الدينار والدرهم فرضي بعبوديتها من عبودية ربه تبارك وتعالى. وذكر الأثمان والملابس هما جمال الباطن والظاهر. وأما قوله أنا ابن عبد المطلب فهذا ليس من باب إنشاء التسمية بذلك وإنما هو باب الإخبار بالاسم الذي عرف به المسمى دون غيره. والإخبار بمثل ذلك على وجه التعريف أو على وجه تعريف المسمى لا يحرمه. ولا وجه لتخصيص أبي محمد بن حزم ذلك بعبد المطلب خاصة فقد كان الصحابة يسمون بعبد أو قال بني عبد شمس وبني عبد الدار بأسمائهم ولا يمكنون عليهم صلى الله عليه وسلم فباب الإخبار أوسع من باب الإنشاء فيجوز فيه ما لا يجوز في الإنشاء. Ibn Qayyim, he says, since this selection will suffice us with this, he says, as far as the most beloved names to Allah and the disliked names and the haram names, then there's a narration of Abu Darda that the Prophet ﷺ said, on the day of judgment you will be called by your names and the names of your fathers. فَأَحْسِنُوا أَسْمَاءَكُمْ, then be selective in your names. Choose good names for your children. And this hadith is collected by Abu Dawud with an okay chain of narration according to Ibn Qayyim. Ibn Umar narrates, the Prophet says, the most beloved names to Allah Almighty and the Most High are Abdullah and Abdul Rahman. And this hadith has been collected by Imam Muslim. Jabir reported the hadith that we read to you from Sahih Bukhari. Abu Wahb al-Jushmi narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, call your children with the names of the prophets. Give your children the names of the prophets. And the most beloved names to Allah, Abdullah and Abdul Rahman. And the most truthful names are Hadith and Hammam. Hadith is a farmer, someone who's sowing seeds, someone who's plowing the ground. Everyone sows seeds. Everyone does something. Everyone is a farmer, and everyone obviously is going to reap what he or she has sown, or the seeds that you have laid down. And Hammam, who thinks, one who's always thinking about something, planning and plotting, something that every human being does. Good or evil. Good or evil. You're thinking about something. Something is on your mind. You want to do something in life. Good or evil. And the most hated names to Allah, and the most repugnant names are Harb. For someone to call himself Harb, war. Oftentimes people who have the toughest names, or they carry around themselves like they're gangsters and tough guys, are the most cowardly people. Oftentimes, people who blow the most steam, they're the people who are the furthest from the actual battlefield. And we always see this on the streets. In the masjid, something happens, someone transgresses a sister or boundaries, and I'll be right back. Or I gotta move my car from the fire hydrant. The brother who was talking the toughest is the furthest one. And oftentimes the one who's the most quiet and the one who's the most patient is the one who's actually the toughest person. So to call yourself Harb is something which is disliked. Even if you are about that type of life, you shouldn't have that name. You should want peace. Don't run, but you should want peace. And obviously Islam is based off of peace. That's why we say Assalamu alaikum. And even when there's warfare, the ultimate goal of war is peace. It says here, وَمُرَّةً. Moving forward, Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, he said, the scholars unanimously agree that any name that is attributed to Allah is a good name. Abdullah, Abdul Rahman, okay, and any of the names which are actual names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as names like Abdul Basit, Abdul Awwal, Abdul Akhir, and names like this, are those proper names to have? Is Allah's name Al-Basit? Is that Allah's name, or is Allah's Al-Qabid Al-Basit? Alright, and this is an example of names that are mentioned which are clearly names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they aren't necessarily mentioned individually. Okay, you have the name Abdul Hanan, or Abdul Hafid, or Abdul Hadi. Alright, we know that there's a fiqh. I don't have to talk about this, obviously. The resident scholar, the imam, the sheikh, he gives you the fiqh of the Asma al-Husna. But it came up, the concept of, every name that's mentioned in the Quran doesn't mean it's an absolute name of Allah. It's a way of naming yourself the servant of one of Allah's names, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Hazm, he says, any name that is attributed to Allah is a good name, such as Abdul Rahman and things like this. Ibn Qayyim says the scholars, they differ on what's the most beloved name to Allah. Is it Abdullah and Abdul Rahman, Or is it Ibrahim and Nuh, so on and so forth, the names of the prophets and the messengers? Ibn al-Qayyim holds the view is that it is based off of the authentic hadith. And this goes to show you, every single person from the Salaf al-Salih, his view and his statement is not the understanding of the Salaf al-Salih. And an individual athar never takes precedence over an authentic hadith. An individual isolated narration, and Sa'id ibn Musayyib is Sayyid al-Tabi'een. He was the master of the Tabi'een, from the most knowledgeable of them. Ibn Qayyim says that the Prophet's hadith comes first. If all of the Sahaba and the Salaf agreed, that's a different story. A vast majority of them, overwhelming number, that's a different story. But one individual narration never takes precedence over a hadith nabawi. That is sarih al-dilala. Many people, they make this mistake. Taking an isolated athar and putting it in front of the dalil. And then mistakenly attributing it to the Salaf al-Salih. That's not Fahm al-Salaf. The Fahm al-Salaf is either their agreement, their ijma', their ittifaq, or naql al-mustafid. That which is mentioned by so many of them, and there's no one that we know who went against them. Sayyid al-Musayyib, Hasan al-Basri, this one said that. That is not a dalil, it's not a hujjah. And it does not get precedence over the Prophet's hadith. As far as disliked names and haram names. And once more he quotes Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah. And he says that the ulama, they agree that it's impermissible to have any name that is attributed to other than Allah. The servant of Uzza, or the servant of Hubal, or the servant of the Kaaba, or the servant of Hussein or Ali. And oftentimes when you travel, you find people's names like this: Abdul Hussein, Abdul Ali, Abdul Nabi, things like this. It's impermissible to have these names. And as a faidah for the Tulab al-Ilm, whenever Ibn Hazm rahimahullah ta'ala mentions that there's ijma' consensus, then it's a tremendous benefit. As Shaykh Hussain ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said about him, huwa min a'lam an-nas. He's from the most learned of the people when the scholars agree and when the scholars disagree. When they agree and when they disagree. Right, moving forward. He mentions here, how did the Prophet ﷺ have the name like Ibn Abdul Muttalib? And other names and other instances in which the companions were called the servant of such and such. What's important is the last slide I'm going to mention to you tonight. Ibn Qayyim, he mentions when the Prophet ﷺ said, Ta'isa Abdul Dinar. He says the servant of the dollar bill, the servant of the gold coin, of the nickel and the dime, he'll be miserable. These people, they'll suffer. People who worship money. He says the only reason why the Prophet said this is not to call someone Abdul Dinar, Abdul Dirham. Okay, but he called them this as a means of scorning them and looking down upon them. For a person not to submit to Allah, but to submit to money. And it's something that is very dangerous for all of us. Do we love money? Do we need money? Or do we worship money? And what's the meaning of worship? You don't have to make sujood to a dollar bill to worship it. Alright? So you have to be mindful of being a slave of the dunya. Having nice things, no one is saying that's haram. We all like nice things. But being a slave of the dunya is a different story. So the point is, brothers and sisters, al-muhim, al-qasd, is that from the important aspects of raising a family and maintaining a family is a name. And oftentimes you may have to remind your sons and your daughters of their names. And that you were never meant to do this and to do that. I grew up doing these things. I had to experience these things. I had to make these poor decisions. That's why my name is such and such. And your name from day one was Abdurrahman. You're supposed to behave. You're supposed to be better than that. Have some shame. And anyone who's been born Muslim and raised Muslim, or anyone who changed their name legally, he knows the importance of the name in the airport. And he knows a certain place that you just can't go. It's too embarrassing to have a Muslim name. And many people who don't have those Muslim names, oftentimes they dip in a dab because no one knows I'm a Muslim. But your name is on your ID, Habibullah Akbar. Everyone understand this? So we go on and on about the name and its importance. This is, as I said, only one aspect from a larger topic of the family, and that is choosing good names for your children, maintaining good names for your children, and reminding your children of the importance of their names. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all success. I thank all of you for your respect, for your good thoughts of me, for you humbling yourself, sitting down, listening to me, taking the time out of your evening. May Allah bless you all and give you the benefit. Jazakumullahu khairan. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad. Are there any questions from the brothers or the sisters here? If there are any questions. We'll take a few, inshallah ta'ala. If the sisters have questions, we'll send them down. We got like 10 minutes maybe? 15 minutes? Type. Further.
7 minutes then.
Like 7 minutes. Not bad.
Sorry, but hadith mentioned in the beginning, which talks about Prophet ﷺ's kunya, I believe, being Al-Qasim. I was really curious why that was in Bab al-Adab by Imam Bukhari. I thought that was...
Right. Questions regarding why was that narration in the chapter of manners or etiquette in Sahih Bukhari? To keep things brief, the more that you read Bukhari, the more you realize how amazing he was as a person and how dynamic his mind was. And Sahih Bukhari is not just one of the most authentic books or the best book of hadith or no. Imam al-Bukhari's book is one of the best books written in the history of humanity. It's one of the best books written in the rich legacy of the Muslims, period, hands down. Imam al-Bukhari's book is not just a book of hadith, it's not just a book of fiqh, it's a book of everything. And that's why he called it al-Jami', totally comprehensive. And the more you read these different chapters, and you see the different styles and techniques of Imam al-Bukhari, the more respect you have for him. And oftentimes when you're confused or you don't get the specific point, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, to be confused and not to know, and that's the path of enlightenment. إِنَّ أَوَّلْ مَرَاحِلِ النُّبُوغِ الْإِسْتِشْكَالِ. As one of the ulama of the past said, the first sign of you becoming a prodigy, of you becoming someone who's talented, of you becoming strong, is to find things problematic. Find things problematic. Knowing the direction, where to go. Drive around sometime without GPS. Get lost. And then you'll get good and you'll remember. And things will come to you naturally. If you always depend and rely on everything, you'll never ever learn. So becoming lost and confused is a good thing. So the student of knowledge should have his nose in Sahih Bukhari day and night. And most of us, unfortunately, we're really not reading Sahih Bukhari. We really don't read Sahih Bukhari enough. We read this book, that book, Fulan, Alan, this and that. But how many times have you read Sahih Bukhari if I asked you as a talib al-ilm? How many times have you made a khatam of Bukhari?
Sheikh, who's reading books anymore?
If that.
2019, man.
It's too big. 50-page book. People get bored, unfortunately.
40 characters.
Allah Mustaan. Allah Mustaan. Al-Muhim is that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, or Imam al-Bukhari, he means from this, is that there's an etiquette of naming your child. And there's an etiquette with Allah and with His Messenger. There's an etiquette with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with His Messenger. And there's a behavior that must be upheld with Allah and with His Messenger. That's one way. Also is the concept of the adab of the Sahaba among each other. They will not give you, we won't give you the kunya Abul Qasim wala karama. Okay? And being firm and strong upon the rulings of the deen does not mean that a person is rude or disrespectful, as many people think. There's no connection between sunnah and da'wah and being nasty and disrespectful. So these are some of the reasons why Imam Bukhari placed it what? In that chapter. And if you read that chapter, you'll find all types of lata'ifs. Wallahu alam. Fadl Shaykh.
Can you elaborate on changing the name of your father's name?
Can you elaborate on changing your father's name? We've explained to Shaykh in detail an explanation of Al-Lu'lu' Marjan, the hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim in Kitab al-Iman. Towards the end of Kitab al-Iman, the subchapters are mentioned regarding types of kufr. Types of kufr. And from minor kufr, things which lead to major kufr, is a person attributing himself to other than his father. But many people, they don't understand the hadith properly. Regardless whether it's haram to change your name, last name or not, but they don't understand the hadith properly. For someone to say that I'm not my father's son, he's not my father. Or for a father to say he's not my son, that does not mean that you can or cannot change your name. Because it's well known, this is my father, it's well known, this is my son, and he may have a different last name than me. Let alone the fact, is that even your father's last name? Where did he get that name from? And that's a long concept with regards to a person who was once a slave or a descendant of a slave. Does everyone come from slavery? It is many, many details. Me personally, I would not say it's haram to change your last name. And I don't believe that that's the proper understanding and application of that hadith, attributing yourself to other than your father. I don't think that. Wallahu a'lam, this is taban bikhtisar shadid. This is in extreme, this is a summarized answer, because the topic like this has to be discussed in detail. And there are many, many misunderstandings that many people have about these rulings, such as the child of the bed. They do have a total misunderstanding of this. The child of the bed is the lawful child, not the child of zina. So what's important is misquoting the Prophet ﷺ, saying the fabricated hadith, and also misquoting the Prophet and explaining something that the Prophet did not mean and intend. Not having the proper fiqh of the sunnah is just as detrimental as having a weak fabricated hadith sometimes. Oftentimes more detrimental. Wallahu alam.
Two things, inshallah. The first is we really should, in terms of English speakers, get away from that translation, child of the bed, because that's batil and asli. It doesn't work at all, because the farash here is not bed anyway. So we need to do away with that. But the second thing is, if you could just, even if it's just for a minute, the importance of the name in establishing Muslim identity. What I see is a trend to go with the names that pass, right? Somebody can't really tell if my child is a Muslim, and I don't want them to have to go through the trouble that I went through. I had a Muslim name growing up, and I had an identity crisis, and whatever. I don't want my children to go back, keep you in place, and those types of things. So if you could just
Does that mic work back there at the ones on behind on the floor?
no.
It doesn't work.
No. So if briefly, if you could just speak
طيب
to that shit.
طيب جزاكم الله خيرا. عفوا. طيب يعني when it comes to people trying to get by and sneak by and pass by and having a name that's accepted by both parties and having a name that is just it's a little bit of this and it's not too much of that, that's a problem, obviously. We mentioned a little bit of this with regards to someone having a name that has no relation to Arabic or Islam or West Africa or North Africa or whatever. Just a name in which I can just dip and dab. It's dangerous. If you want to name your son or your daughter something which is not related or pertaining to Islam, and that's what you feel is a good name, okay, that's one thing. Or are you afraid and scared? Are you afraid and scared? And I think this issue is like wearing a thobe. Is wearing a thobe obligatory? No, it's not obligatory. You don't have to wear a thobe. I don't think there's any reasonable, knowledgeable, learned person who said you have to wear a thobe. But why are you saying don't wear a thobe? Because you're afraid, you're scared, you want to fit in, you want to be picked out and selected. So al-amalu bin-niyyah, the intention is very important. And the identity with regards to what you wear, with regards to what you're called, with regards to what you do for a living, all of these things are important. And if we're scared and afraid of the harm and the annoyance of the kuffar, we've already lost the battle. We lost just by having fear. If we're scared, right? So, it's unfortunate. And there are many manifestations of this. People wanting to just fit in. Your name is Muhammad, but you want to be referred to as Mo or Mu. Not saying it's haram to have a nickname, but the concept of I don't like to be known and addressed as Muhammad because people think I'm a terrorist, or I'm from the Middle East, or I'm from this and I'm from that. So that's unfortunate. So, trying to fit in between two parties and two groups is definitely not the way of the believers. Oftentimes, that's the way of the munafiqeen. As Allah tells us about them, in aradna illa ihsanan wa tawfiqa. They said we only wanted to just, be in the middle. We wanted tawfiq, we wanted to harmonize between the two groups and the two factions. And oftentimes people try to make a sandwich, they ruin things. You have to pick your side, you have to pick your loyalty. Either Muslim, Kitab, Sunnah, or something other than that. It's just that simple. We don't make the halal haram. We don't put hardships on people that were not placed on them by the deen. But it's deeper than that, guys. Just like the beard, it's deeper than that. The niqab, it's deeper than just a fiqh ruling. It's not obligatory to cover my face. So why do you want your face uncovered? Why do you want to walk out with your face uncovered? Because you want to fit in. You don't want to get singled out. You don't. Or you honestly believe that it's not obligatory and this is the hijab that Allah wants from me. So intention with regards to the name, Islamic identity, and the loss of the Islamic identity, I would say, is one of the most powerful tools that the non-Muslims used against the Muslims. It's stripping them from the identity. Like we said about Kunti Kinte. So your name is Toby. There's no Kunta Kinte. There's no other language, there's no other culture, there's no other religion. No, your name is a good name. He said he gave you a name and he gave you a good name. Toby. And he resisted and he fought. And he beat him and beat him and beat him until he finally began the process of breaking him. Breaking him. And even then, he still didn't break him 100%, but it was some type of submission. So, as we said before, the non-Muslims, unfortunately, sometimes they understand things more than we do.
So I give you a number in prison.
How can that strip you of your name? Your pride is unfortunate. Wallahu a'lam. Obviously, this is in brief, and a topic of such importance: Islamic identity, Muslim identity, even if it's a cultural reference, it's something which needs to be spoken on in more depth. Wallahu a'lam.
I know you don't have time, but that whole explanation of child in the bed needs to be explained. Because generally, people believe that it means the child of fornication.
Clear.
Generally.
Clear.
In this city, anyway.
Clear. Well, I mean, in brief, like we said, and do it later, you got to understand the Arabic language.
No.
In the Arabic language, just like English, sometimes you mention a piece to mean whole. You mention a piece to mean a whole. So the bed is a part of the what? Of the room. And the room is a part of the house. So the hadith is basically telling us and teaching us al-waladu lil-firash wa-lil-ahid al-hajar. The child belongs to the owner of the house. Meaning, hypothetically, this man is his wife or it is his concubine. He's the one who feeds her, clothes her, takes care of her, gives her lodging. He is the lord of the land. He's the man of the household. And he had relations with this woman. She bore a son or child. The child is attributed to him. If he was gone, if he was traveling, that's not my child. So and so. Al-waladu li-firash. Yani li sahib al-firash. Yani li sahib al-manzil. The one who owns the house is his child. Meaning that the man is supposed to be the breadwinner. He's supposed to be the one who pays the bills and takes care of the woman. So it's his child. And not the opposite. And that's why the Prophet says, وَلِلْعَاهِدِ الْحَجَرِ. And the fornicator gets stones. Whether that's a physical or metaphysical meaning. Stoned to death, or al-khayba wa nadama. This son, he grows up to be a great, strong, powerful man. And he's not attributed to the father because it's illegal. So subhanallah, yani, the hadith itself explains what's what. How can you just take half of the hadith and run with it and warp its understanding? The hadith itself mentions two things: fornicator and bed. The bed is not fornication. So that's a total opposite misunderstanding. And I said before, in brief, I would say there are hundreds of issues like this. Hundreds of issues like this. All right? So we have to learn the fundamentals and the basics, and Allah knows best. Unfortunately, we got to stop, guys. I'm so sorry. The viewers online, I'm sorry we didn't get to your questions tonight. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow, bidin ta'ala, jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu feekum. Make sure you guys remind us for the future events, future times in which we're invited to maybe tackle some of these issues properly, scholastically, yani. Wallahu alam.